definitely think that more young women need to get into politics because we approach the job and the position in a different way. And I say this, that we govern from the heart. It's more not about mind and ego, but it's about genuinely caring for the children, the next generations that aren't even born yet, that we leave them with, a clean environment, that they still have their rights intact, that they still have their language and culture to be proud of. Wat Ganoradu, Kasanahoe Sky Deer Yujats, Gahnawagi ni Duagano, Wakatahuni ni Wagi Daroda Danaine Honda Iade Neradizahayas. I think as a young person, I had leadership qualities. I was instrumental in starting like a youth group in my teenage years. I remember going to the council election, asking, what is the candidates going to do for the young people in the community? And then I left. I moved away. I lived in Florida for a number of years, 8 years to be exact, from the ages of 20 to 28. And I went to school. I got a bachelor's degree in psychology. And when I moved back to the community, I always thought I would do a job maybe in psychology or social work or something to help people, right? And it just didn't pan out that way. And I ended up working in a tobacco factory for a couple of, maybe 9 months or so. And then the election was coming in July of 2009. And so I was asking friends and family if they thought I would be a good candidate. And I remember my grandmother on my father's side say, "What do you know about politics anyways?" And I says, "Well, you know what, Duda?" I says, "When you grow up in Kahnawake, you can't help but not know about politics, right?" So, I put my name forward. I was successful on my first attempt. The community put their support behind me, and that was almost 15 years ago. And it's just been an amazing journey and ride. And I was on the council for 12 years before becoming the Grand Chief in 2021 and being the first female to accomplish that and making history and becoming the first Grand Chief woman of Kahnawake. So in terms of inspiring others, being in politics it's a very tedious job. I don't think people realize the amount of dedication that goes into it. I spend a lot of time away from my family, a lot of time away from home, being on the road. And a lot of times people don't understand, why we have to go to these external meetings, why it's important to come and share in a space like this, the Elected Women's Gathering, because the issues are all the same a lot of times throughout our communities. And if we can help share in what's working, what is, the challenges that we're having, we can lift each other up. We can share, the things that we've already created, like laws or policies or governance, because there's a lot of evolving that happens in communities and a lot of change, and we have to be ready for it. So I'm hopeful that in this next upcoming election, we'll see more women leaders. But a lot of my vision is that we don't have an elected system at some time, and that we restore, our cultural ways of governing. And I know it's not that easy. A lot of people say, well, if the elected council would just step aside, it would be functional. But, there's a lot of things that are tied to that Indian Act, to, the way we govern now, that it's not an easy changeover, and there'll have to be some growing pains, and we'll have to, I guess, help people over their fears of what we don't know. Yeah, I think it's important, first of all, to be grounded in who you are. Coming from such a rich culture in our Ginyak-Gahaga ways, knowing our language is so important, knowing our ceremonies, our cycle of ceremonies, different things about, our values and principles, about Turo Wampum, relationships with, people external to us, about needing to have, a good mind, being respectful of each other, knowing Ahonda Gariwadekwa, which is like the words that come before all else, and understanding the interconnectedness of all things. We say our elders are our most precious because they are our knowledge keepers. They're our first language speakers. We can learn so much from them. And then the babies, right? The ones that are they're so innocent. They're like sponges. We have to show them, we have to lead by example and be good people, right? That's why I said show love, show compassion, and show them what it means to be, you know, a good person in this world. We have a very short time to live here, so let's make sure that we're leading by example, showing them, you know, that life can be a beautiful experience. We love them, we take care of them, and the same thing with our elders and everybody in between, right? There was a time when I was a young baby and, you know, everybody has these flags and t-shirts, every child matters. Well, then let's act like it. Be everything that you say you are, you know, how you want to be treated. Be respectful to others. You know, if you hurt somebody, if you upset somebody, have humility, be able to apologize and move on, have reconciliation in your heart. You know, those values and principles that I talked about early on, about having peace, having good mind. And when you have peace and good mind, you can have strength of collectivity, because we all understand that in our creation story, if I could just tell you this, we believe that when the Creator molded us from clay, that He breathed into us 3 times. And then we have a fire. And when you touch a living person, we're warm, right? Everybody's hot. But when you touch a person that is deceased, they're cold because their fire has left. Now, if that fire is a part of the Creator or that great spirit, we all have that in us. So in essence, we're all part of that Creator. And so we should all treat each other like that.